your first adventure in mishaps in Canadian censorship. I hope you all have fun with this. So I'm going to start. We had about 30 seconds before the show to talk about how we were going to try and do this because it's always different. So we're going to start tonight for everybody out there. First thing you do is you like, share, and subscribe, and then we're going to take a turn, throw out one of the biggest stories that each one of our platforms is covering. And then when we make one pass around, we'll kind of all take and add our 2 bits worth, to use an old expression, on what's going on. So I'm going to keep this simple. Richard, you're beside me on the screen. Fire away. What's burning your butt this week?
Oh, the fires in Shuswap and the bombshells that are coming out from that. My counterpart, Chad, happens to be one who's doing the saving of the property out there. And apparently the military is starting to push their BS on them that are basically using the heavy equipment to build the firewalls. So anyways, I've been following that, and hopefully Chad will be able to come on Tuesday to tell us more about his story. That would be great.
Chuck and Marianne.
I'm going to start. Wayne, I have a PowerPoint. Can I put it up?
You got 30 seconds.
I got 30 seconds. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this guy's name on some of our channels. He was 3 years ago, but he was right. He was right about the upcoming lockdowns. He was right about what's happening in Hawaii. He's right about a whole bunch of things that are only now coming to the surface. He has been told that he's not right, but frankly, the legacy news keeps telling us that his stuff is happening. He is somebody that we all are aware of, and to a large extent, we are following in his footsteps. In Canada, same thing. Canada, COVID's going to start up again this October. At least that's what the government, that's what the people in the back end want to talk about. And a lot of it is booster shots. A lot of it is a whole new series of booster shots that came from the World Health Organization or from Klaus Schwab or from somebody. And it at this point, it seems to be all about money.
Imagine that. What could money have to with any of this?
Well, it's certainly not about healthcare, Wayne.
Paul,
no, Marianne.
Oh, sorry, Marianne. Yeah. You guys throw me off. This is like Bogart with you two. You guys got to get your own systems.
We've tried, but it boots us off when we have our own different computers. So that's
Bunker
why this
journalism.
Awesome. So, okay, I just wanted to let people know that I watched a really interesting lecture from Reiner Fulmer. And what he talked about was what systems of justice to use in order to somehow get prosecutions on the perpetrators, okay, of these crimes, these elites. And I think we've all been sort of fiddling around with what to use. Some people have, sort of trying to go ICU. Other people are doing their own common law. But Reiner Fulmer made a very good point, which is to get these bastards, you have to use their existing system. And the reason it will work is because they have to keep that system intact in order to commit the crimes they are. So that's just something I wanted to bring to the forefront.
Interesting point. All right, Paul, now you get to go. But you got to turn your mic on.
All right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, my big thing, we're seeing a huge rise in concern about the food supply, almost like there's an invisible famine, so to speak, where the quality of ingredients in our stores, we know, are just not there. And so what I'm going to be covering is a story about a company that is shortening the distance from farm to table by making sure that those quality ingredients that come from good stewards of this land, getting that food to people without the need for the big transportation chains and supply chains, and relying on all that transportation infrastructure, which we can expect is going to be heavily affected by everything that's happened. We want to make sure that these people get to know how they can do the same thing for their communities.
Cool beans. Brock, what's it like being in a room full of rookies again?
I didn't know we were allowed to have a PowerPoint ready, so I hurry up and did this.
Nice.
You got here a moment.
He's back on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. There's more shizzle, as we like to call it, coming out on the voter anomalies, maybe in Georgia, where he's actually on trial for conspiracy to overturn the election, but they found out over 300,000 votes shouldn't have been even cast. He only lost by 10,000, but who's talking about that?
Oh,
That's it's been really
I don't
hard
know what
for
else
me
is
to-
is there anything else going on? You know, like
nothing in the universe right now except Trump's mugshot.
Yeah.
the most popular man in the world, the most
I-
identifiable man in the world.
While you were doing Sean's podcast this evening, I had an Apple News notification that Trump is now selling mugshot bumper stickers.
Listen,
Nice.
he was selling them.
Yeah, that's what Apple News said.
Yeah, for a $40 donation. I'll be honest with you.
I'll take two, please.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm about ready to donate, make a political contribution to Donald Trump's legal fund.
epic
That's right.
photo. That's an
Chucky
epic
and Chris.
photo.
He's the best troll.
Oh yeah, I would totally buy one of them. I have no shame though. I had a Chris Guy T-shirt, so if I'll wear his face, I'll. Right? Yeah, thank God for you guys keeping an eye on the world. My biggest story is my Twitter fight today. So I got into a CTV and called them out, and I was totally right. They were totally wrong. They I have slides though, so you want to throw 3 and 5 up there. So CTV, we just we've always got one eye.
Which one here? Is that the right
No,
one?
not that
No.
one. It says 3 and 5.
Oh, you can't
That
put it
one.
in?
Yeah. So CTV's throwing this their psyops out there. 3 out of 5 every Canadians hold the belief that humans are responsible for climate change. So on Twitter, I'm like, is that out of the 30% that you actually published? Because we know 60% at least don't believe in climate change even exists. And so I followed the story down to the survey, and I was totally wrong. It wasn't 30%. Do you want to throw the second one in, 3 and 5? There it is. It was actually 27% of the people that they actually published. So good news for us. Climate change is not going to be a thing in most people's eyes. So anyway, yeah, that's the extent of the psyops continue, and we're just keeping an eye on the Lion News. That's what we're doing.
It was really hard to not talk about Trump and or the debate for me, because that's basically what the whole universe is talking about. But that always makes me very concerned when we're being, when the bread and circus is in full swing. That usually means that there's something that they don't want us looking at. So for me, this was Canada's new appointee as an ambassador to Ukraine. This means a whole new research project and a deep dive on a lady. I am assuming it's a lady, Natalka Smok. But on my initial glances, she seems to be one of the original orchestrators working with the appointments of Stephen Harper in the Ukraine when they first started fiddling with Ukraine and rebuilding their justice system with Canada's input. So she was there 2012, 2013 before the coup. This to me is, I always find it interesting when these Muppets get advanced and they come out of the blue. All of a sudden, here's somebody with 10 years of service in this industry who's now leading it, and we've never heard of them. That's interesting to me.
Stop with your conspiracy theories, Wayne. There's nothing going on in Ukraine. Joe Biden told you that.
if we're going to go into the conspiracy theory about Ukraine, this was the other story that I really wanted to do. Prigozhin, head of the Wagner unit. I don't think he's dead. I think the Wagner unit is going to be sitting on Kiev's doorstep before Christmas.
Stop.
They are literally rebuilding their training base 35 kilometers away from Kiev.
I don't believe you, Wayne, because I saw on CBS and NBC that he is dead. So I think it's on the internet too, which makes it really legit.
Well, this is all true, and I was even listening to like Pepe Escobar, who knows everything about everywhere on the planet, and they actually believe that Prigozhin is gone. If he is, either which way, I think the result is the same. That Wagner gets an upgrade, and Putin's blessings again to go and do what they do best, and that's. Best done for them. The closest place for them to reach is Kiev, and the rest of the fronts are falling apart, so they don't have anything to bring back to Kiev. That's what my gut instincts are saying.
Yeah.
No arguments. That's a popular
Makes
conspiracy,
sense.
apparently.
No arguments.
Makes sense.
Richard, what's up next on you? What else are you following? The
what else?
fires are big.
What else? Yeah,
That's-
they are.
There's an extreme pattern between Maui, Kelowna, Italy, North Africa, and South America,
And Shuswap.
and
Yeah.
Kelowna and the entire Shuswaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything to add on that they've discovered out there?
Lest we forget Lytton, BC. Let's not forget Lytton. The other thing is that I don't know if it even means anything, but do you guys remember back in 2018 when there was that missile alert in Maui over Hawaii? And it lasted 12 minutes before they started correcting it. And then it was 38 minutes before they called it off. So they were able to alert people to a missile that didn't exist, but were not able to alert people to a fire.
Wow.
Yeah, and did you see that the police chief in charge of the investigation actually resigned from his post after announcing why he didn't didn't put off the sirens? Thought that was
What did
pretty
he say?
interesting.
What did he say about why he didn't put off the sirens?
Well, he said health reasons is why he's resigning, but he didn't put out the sirens because the sirens they use those for tsunamis, not for wildfires.
But it depends. Isn't there some that tell you about a tsunami to go one way, and if it's a fire to go the other? And they didn't do either. Somebody was saying that.
I don't know. This was his announcement that I saw his videotape. So.
Yeah.
I can top that.
Yeah.
Sure.
The guy in charge of the water to put out the fire says that don't give them water because the water is sacred.
What?
No.
So life is not sacred, and land is not sacred. Just water.
In the States, nothing is sacred.
That's the holy water.
But not even that. Not even that. He said that the water is sacred. He used some Hawaiian thing for it. I don't know what it was.
Wow.
Yeah, he wouldn't give water out because the water is sacred. They have to cherish the water. You can't make this shit up.
Wow.
Wow.
Welcome, late Glenn Jung from Bright Light News, another first timer on this show tonight. So probably, are you hearing us, Glenn? You're not hearing us. That's got to be on your end. Everything.
Yeah, we're all good here.
He's probably
everybody else has been good. Well, let him try with that again and give us an audio. Do we hear you? No, he's not hearing us yet.
No.
Good for him.
Probably.
Can I throw another topic out there that pretty much hits everybody here? I got something for man known as Paul too. But you talked about the debates Did you guys, maybe you didn't hear, Fox News, who exclusively carried the debates, said that you could not air more than 3 minutes of their content if you were a commentator.
Wasn't
Wow.
Rumble one of the sponsors?
Wow.
Yeah. You could not air, or they would sue you.
Well, I can't
I
imagine.
mean, nobody watched it anyways.
I was gonna say, who was taking 3 minutes of their footage?
What's crazy?
There you are, Glenn.
You know, it's the same thing as you can't say anything bad about the vaccines. You can't say anything about COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
God forbid you talk about. They had a media blackout in Hawaii.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, this is par for the course for us here in the States, and I'm assuming it's probably since Canada did their little deal with Meta and said you can't share news. You know, this.
Are you got us now, Glenn?
Can you hear us?
Still not.
I could hear him saying testing.
In the last 4 days, I've received 6 different content removal notifications, 2 suspensions, and I went back and I looked at my content on Facebook, and more than 65% of my content out of the last 4.5 years is gone, just blank spots.
Wow.
So
I try not to go back and look because it just angers me.
yeah, this is why I'm so grateful for what all of us are achieving in our own realms, and bringing that all together into something like this, where we get to introduce this stuff to so many others, is definitely inspiring, and a sign that adapt, improvise, and overcome will always rule the day. So but on the censorship, Brock, it's reaching an extreme up here.
Down here too.
Yeah, where like in Hawaii, with the critical infrastructure, all of these things that people need to know, not being communicated. In Kelowna, I received an email that went out to most all of us up here in Canada. I think probably got it from some locals, and they've been doing some interviews this week where their community was notified that there was a fire coming by a note on the door at the gas station.
Yeah.
Well, police were also barricading, telling you to go one way, and people would run into barricades. So, I mean, the censorship is just it seems to be every day it's a different censorship. The fact that Fox, that nobody watched, says you can't air a clip of a presidential debate that affects everyone. I mean, I think we've come to the point now that it's actually absurd that
Brock, if I could ask a quick question, my understanding is that Rumble was one of the sponsors of the debate.
No, Rumble took it through Fox, but Fox retained the rights, like the Super Bowl or something like that, where they put up the ad. See, I don't know how your media, because Wayne and I have talked multiple times about how your media works. We work a lot off of sponsorships. And I don't know if that's similar for you guys, but real quick.
In Canada, 50% of the legacy media is bought and paid for by provincial or federal governments.
Real quick, man known as Paul. Is that your name, Paul, or
Paul? Yeah,
Paul. We just talked to a potential client in the States called Moink. I don't know if you guys can get Moink in Canada. It's meat, mail order meat, right? But this lady runs this thing where she goes to 35 different local farmers all across the country. And she had mentioned that during COVID, she's like, I don't think you guys realize we were a step away from the food chain being gone.
Yeah.
Which just, to me, when you brought it up, Paul, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I don't think we even realized how close we were. We all knew it was bullshit, and we all knew we were close to something in what they were doing, but I was surprised at how close we really were.
Yeah.
Well, even with these fires, I'm sure it's taking out a huge supply of our food. Like, where are we going to get pineapples and stuff from if they're not coming from Hawaii or whatever their natural produce is? That's all gone. Right?
Oh,
It's all
Philippines.
been wiped out. And all the fires that are happening in and around BC, Quebec, Alberta, Ontario, like these are heavily farmed agricultural type lands. So how much of the crops have been taken out? And we're not hearing from the farmers. We're not hearing on mainstream media. We're not hearing anything about the food supply or the livestock. So what's happening, right?
Right. Well, not only that, we just read that in the States, your largest meat processor just got back. Yeah. So that's happened here in Canada too. They own Olymel.
The Chinese own all of our choke points when it comes to food.
Yeah. These guys, they're really great at figuring out the choke points and taking hold of those. Right. So that's been the case in Canada for a while, but they just bought one of your largest ones as well, right?
HW Foods.
Yeah. I think
WH Foods. Yeah.
I think it's the biggest pork producer, and that's what made me think about the woman from Moink. No plug for them, but the woman from Moink, is she said, they do chicken, salmon, pig, beef from all over the country, and I was really surprised that we were that close. And she said that China is the biggest. They just bought the biggest pork producer, packers, shipper, and Bill Gates owns the most farmland in America.
Yeah.
So we're kind of screwed on both ends. But it's nice that there's something there that they're going to this lady has it, so there's no hormones, none of that. It's all locally sourced from 35 different farms. It's just, to me, it's nice, just not for the sponsorship, but also I'll buy their product because Lord only knows what's in the meat in the grocery store.
This honestly is just making me want to move to Russia yet again, because they don't have climate change, they don't have a forest fire problem, and they don't have food supply issues.
Exactly. Well, you know what? On the BRICS map that I was looking at, when it comes to agriculture and all the food processing plants that have either shut down or have had fires or are no longer processing food, the only countries that were not affected, their food processing plants, were those a part of the BRICS program, those 5 countries.
But now those 5 countries are 10 countries, and they represent 49% of the world's population now.
Yeah, and they have no issues with food supply or food plants going up in flames. Imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I hear stories like this and I just think to myself, this is the perfect opportunity for Canada just to blaze a whole new trail and say, see you both later. We're saying goodbye to the globalists, and we're saying to you guys who think you can do it better with the BRICS, we're done. We're done. You guys go on, do whatever you want to do. We're gonna thrive in our own little decentralized version of.
They'll throw you in jail here in America because that guy's name's Donald Trump.
Oh, come on. Donald Trump didn't have anything to know.
No, I'm saying he's the only one with all the goods on all of them.
Okay.
Tucker Carlson, in the States, Tucker Carlson literally asked him in an interview, are you afraid they're going to assassinate you?
The only thing left for them to do is kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
He's being persecuted for telling his followers to watch Newsmax, which is a conservative-based news outlet.
Right.
So he's got something on him, but he's the only one. He's really right now the only one I think will make a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, he must
Glenn,
have
you got ears on us now, Glenn?
I can hear you now, everyone. Great to see you all.
Oh, awesome.
Right on.
Welcome, Glenn.
Hey.
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks. Yeah.
Welcome,
Well, listen.
welcome to the Friday Night Mess.
Oh, this is fantastic. I had no idea it was an actual online show. So otherwise, I would have done my hair up a little bit or something. To up a bit. I thought it was just a meeting, but this is amazing. But speaking of Trump, yeah, I mean, look at Canada. I mean, we've got nobody here. Even we just had. I forget her name, Sheila Lewis. She was unvaccinated, was denied life-giving donor organ transplant, dies, and not even Polyev, right? She's from Alberta. Not Polyev says nothing about it. Not even Danielle Smith says anything about it. What's going on, right?
Exactly.
I mean, all these people are posturing and saying that they're doing the right things. When I had this great interview with Randy Hillier, he's our former elected official out here in Ontario, and he said, no bill is passed without a chunk of dough. Rarely is a bill passed with a chunk of dough. And he said the reason you see all these politicians come out, and what they do is they align themselves with people who are outspoken, who have a big following, who may have a cause. Then they basically pick them up, pull them into their grift, and as soon as they get elected, they get into power, they say goodbye. And I mean, look at Polyev.
Yeah.
He didn't say freedom. He didn't use the word freedom until the convoy. And then he kept on using all the way up to his leadership. And then I haven't really heard that word freedom much at all. Right.
No.
And it's exactly what they do. They come with their platforms, they get into power, and then they say, oh, yeah, you know what? We're going to get rid of first past the post, says Trudeau. And then he gets in there. And he's like, well, we're going to keep it now. Forget proportional representation.
We've gotten to the point where the reliability to the virtue signaling and the hierarchy, the chain of command, supersedes all modalities of humanity. From all different places, I hear and I hear these responders, firefighters, whatnot, being told to stand down, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. Well, I'll tell you what, I spent 15 years in emergency rescue. There is not a soul on earth would have been able to stop me from doing what was ethically and morally right in that situation. So I can't even begin to fathom what it is like for these victims that are being destroyed and demolished so quickly that they're not even given a voice of recognition. This lady that was let to die because she didn't want to inject this experiment into her, and I believe that was a second person that's died for the same reason.
The other was a father of 5.
Yeah, 35-year-old male here in Ontario.
And didn't they have the audacity to ask for his organs to be donated?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the politicians are stumping on, we'll solve the problem by eliminating the red tape for foreign workers to come and replace all of the workers that we fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the story. They're calling for 1.5 million immigrants over the next 3 years, but where are we going to put them? We have a housing shortage. You've got the housing minister of Halifax
said they'll build their own houses.
Yeah, well, Nova Scotia, the housing minister of Nova Scotia, and Olivia Chow in Toronto are pleading with everybody to open their doors because they know from that census that we took, 2 years ago, where they asked all these privacy questions that they've never asked on a census before. We know there's 130,000 empty bedrooms in Nova Scotia. So come on, people, open up your doors. And we know that this is going to come down to, you're racist if you don't care about humanity if you don't. They're going to shame people just like they did with these stupid jabs. They're going to shame people into opening up their houses, which will make their 15-minute cities that they want to bring in a hell of a lot easier when you've got the community now opening up their doors as well, especially in areas where they can't build high rises or where people own, several acres. This is how they're going to get the 15-minute cities in those areas too. It's disgusting and shameful. And I said to Chris, I've got Olivia Chow's address. Why don't we publish her address where she lives? She has 2 places. She has a condo and a house in Toronto. Why don't you start start with the leadership? You open your doors. You've got 2 homes and you're only one person and you got 2 homes. How about you open your doors? And how about we, all those immigrants that are sitting on Richmond Street in their tents, why don't we go down, hand out her address and say, here, she wants everybody to open their doors. She's going to start and lead by example. So here's her address. Go knock on the door. Go pitch your tent in her yard because she thinks that all Canadians should do that. Like it's shameful.
Jody, I think this is going to make a great video. We need to get you on this video.
a little Martha's Vineyard treatment would I think create some great publicity. But there's one thing that I did want to add to that, though, is right now, one of the stories that's kind of coming out is the reverse migration of Ukrainians. They are finding Canada too fascist and communist after having come here, that they are regretting having come here, and they're going back to the Ukraine. Like, Orwell couldn't write this.
Wow.
Well, my understanding is that in Ukraine, they actually had billboards up urging people to take a vacation in Canada on the Canadians' dime by claiming to be refugee, fill out the paperwork to be refugee. You get to come to Canada. Our Canadian government will give you all the money, put you up in a hotel for 2 months, and then come home. So a lot of the people who are not refugees, who have not been hurt or harmed in any way by what's going on over there, basically the upper echelon, are coming here, taking vacation on our dollars, claiming the refugee status, and then going back to Ukraine once their month or 2 months is up, when their money runs out.
And then there's the invasion from the east or west coast, where they're coming in 1.5 million on student visas and never having attended or even registered in a school. They're coming here, loading up on the benefits and getting jobs.
Yeah.
Well, see, they've already learned everything. What else do they need to know?
Well, their boss already owns everything, so they've already got jobs and preferential treatments. So
that's it. No.
Yeah,
I think it's cute that you guys think 1.8 million people coming across your border is a big deal. I think that's adorable.
That's just from China.
Are you from Texas or what?
It's from China. Oh, we have them coming from all over the place. They go to the Caribbean, and then they hop over to Mexico, and then they come across the borders where they just welded the door open.
Yeah, saw that.
Just for perspective, what kind of numbers do you guys have flowing across the borders?
Oh, geez. What they tell us, millions.
4 million, 4.3 million, I heard last year.
I heard within a couple of years, it's going to be like 8 to 10 million.
Wow. Oh, well, that's a small little, it doesn't even hit 1% of your population. 1.5 almost hits 1% of our overall population. So it's a lot for us.
What you guys need to do is what they did in Massachusetts and New York. They did the same thing. They came out the establishment, I call them the leadership. I hate to use that word for these people because that's the last thing they do is lead. They said, you should open your doors and let them come stay with you. Until it got so bad, New York, that the mayor of New York City then came out and said, Joe Biden has to do something about this. There's too many people here.
Yeah.
Well, you idiots called yourself sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
You brought it on yourself, and now you can't handle the problem, the crime, the homelessness, But one, I realize we have a lot more people, but 1 million, 1.8, and the 4 million that Wayne said, that's just what they tell us.
Right.
That's just that doesn't count all the getaways or the people we've arrested that they just then let go. Here's a cell phone. We'll text you when your court date is. Yeah. I'm sure they'll show.
But go vote.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll all vote Democrat. What are you talking about? Who definitely votes Democrat in America? The dead and the immigrants. Yep. That's who votes Democrat.
Oh, that's a true story,
through the cemetery. Yeah.
I always tell my wife, when I die, don't let me vote Democrat. Fill it out and send it back in.
We just spent a weekend with the Audit New York guys, and he was going like item by item, listing off all the things they've uncovered. They're going to door, and they're going like, it says here you voted 35 times in the last election. Is that true? No. Poor lady in this ramshackle little house has no money. He's like, did you write 8 checks a day for 2 years to the Democrats to the tune of $90,000? She goes, yeah, no, that wasn't me. Right?
This is in so many states. It's in Pennsylvania. Like I said, when we're done, Google Catherine, I can't remember, Engelbrecht. She's True the Vote, and the numbers that they're coming out with Georgia, it was like 600 or 300 and some thousand voters, and his excuse was, well, roughly 14% of the people move out. So, but you still have, I mean, Donald Trump lost by 11,000 votes in Georgia, and Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, or this, I don't know if he's called Secretary of State, whatever his title is, who deals with the elections, said that, oh yeah, well, we can't do anything because there's these lawsuits going on right now.
It's like exactly the wash, rinse, repeat of what I saw happening in Toronto, where 30 days or 40 days before the actual election, they introduced 300,000 new mail-in ballots that were requested all of a sudden, and a winner that basically campaigned from their basement, and a corrupt establishment there in Toronto that has an epidemic of property fraud, and there's hundreds of empty vacant buildings that are property shams, tax shelter scams. So there's these giant empty complexes, and people are on the streets and being forced into the streets. The carbon tax went up here again. Without having turned their furnaces on once this summer, people's gas bills have doubled already. Yeah. And this is kind of really, to me, just disconcerting. Chuck, you got?
If I could say one thing, we've spent the last 30 minutes talking about everything that's going wrong. We're sort of overwhelmed by all the things that are going wrong. And I remember 20 years ago, I was in Hong Kong as it was being taken over by the communists. I hung with a Reuters representative. I went to their protest marches. I did a whole bunch of really neat things down there. And I also talked with Communist Party of China members of the government. And I kept saying, I went drinking with one of them one night, and it came out that I kept saying, why don't you solve these problems? Why don't you solve these problems? And he said, we're not supposed to solve these problems. We're supposed to make more of them, because then you get more and more confused and you can't stop us. So I'm going to ask, how do we stop it?
That problem is the solution, right?
Less and less dependency.
I blame America.
Paul's idea is pretty good. I mean, really to get yourself off of the regular standard of how you order things, where you get your food and where you get your news. Just stop. Just stop the system.
We have everything we need to end all of this. In fact, I'm reminded a little bit about what, we're seeing all of these crazy things happening, and it's easy to get caught up and even fearful about some of the disasters that we're watching unfold. The death and destruction that tsunami of pain that is about to hit us. It's easy to focus on all that stuff. But what we can recognize now, that we have as much disclosure as there is, we're just watching the antics of a flailing life, like something is dying. It's just flailing on the ground with it's decapitated, and it's only its nerves that are thrashing about, causing the destruction.
The system.
Good. With the head cut off.
That's how we have to look at this, because there is no way these are the behaviors of victors.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Never has in the history of the world has the oppressor been the good guy, right?
Yeah.
Pretty basic, and without even realizing how many of the different parts of the puzzle we're putting together outside of all of this has been a very quick learning curve. When I look at right now, and Brock, you're familiar with it, and a few others here on the platform, the partnership that we just launched with alternative supply chain choices means that go ahead, bring in your lockdowns. Go ahead, don't let me into Walmart or Costco. I don't care, because the trucks proved that they're going to keep going, and I'm still going to get what I want. So the only person that's going to lose out of it are these people that participate in the corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stops someone from making that sort of a leap where it's like, oh, I have to change the way that I buy things. Oh my God, that's so scary. The only thing that we have to help them through is that fear that that system works, or that when it breaks down, that it's going to make everything fall apart, right? They're scared that it means something, right, to them, that we just have to bridge them to that recognition that, hey, no, we are the ones that actually make all of this run around in circles, right? We are the ones that are building the cars. We're the ones that are doing the farming. We're the ones that are doing all of these things that make this world tick. We don't have to do it a part of their system anymore, and we don't have to be scared. That's how we get past the next level.
So
no fear.
I do agree with you, Paul. I do agree with you. This is the way it's going to go if we are going to win. But we are going to go through an intermediary step where the remainders of the powers that be keep saying, Canada has become Greece. The United States has become Lebanon. Don't you understand? Only 30% of the people are even paying taxes now. Everybody's getting around the system. We are a failed economy. And they'll say this just before they fail. And we have to be prepared for the deluge of propaganda from the legacy as this happens.
Totally. Are we still going to face that challenge? Absolutely. But thankfully, I think that the community of people that are in the know, we're going to have a lot more stable of a foundation across borders, across ideologies, across even religions. We're seeing that too, where people are really starting to recognize, no. This is our land. Yeah. This is our nation. They don't call the shots.
If I can cut in exactly one more, Brock looks like he's really nervous.
I want to agree with you, Paul. Right?
But you really love Trump and want him to be in charge.
No. I want him to be in charge. I'll make no qualms about that, because right now we still have to live within the system that's here. Saying no, we don't let me say this. I think the economy is going to take a dump, and I think it already has taken a dump. And I think that's where your mind's going to start changing. And it's not going to change it with them growing their food, because a lot of people still think the cows come from the grocery store. They don't realize you can grow that stuff on your own. I think and I grew up in a very small town. We didn't even have a stoplight. That's how small it was. And I think you're going to see people get back to the way it was, right? They're going to start bartering.
Absolutely.
And I think that's as close as you're going to get to people, because people aren't going to give up Amazon. It comes to your door. Sit there and say, I'm going to tell the masses, because even the people who agree with you still use it. So I think you're going to see the economy change, and you're going to see people start to barter. I do it now.
We do it.
There are things where I might know something about how to buy and sell media here. And someone says, well, I need that. How do I go about doing it? I trade my services of my knowledge of 25 years in the business, and he may take care of my pets, where there's no money exchanged. There's no taxes paid. So the getting around the system, as you call it, that Chuck said about the 30%, unfortunately, I'm part of the 30% that pays a ton of taxes. I think you're going to see a small shift. And I think those are the people. We're going to be leaving people behind. It's just going to happen. People are going to be left behind because they're going to be unwilling to modify. So to get 100% of the people to buy into that, I just don't think I don't think it's ever going to happen. But you're going to see a lot of people that have that entrepreneurial spirit that say, well, wait, I can fix your car. You have a farm, you're a vet, you're whatever services you have, you're going to start bartering. And I remember growing up, My dad's friend owned a jewelry shop. My dad was a contractor. The jeweler needed windows. My dad needed diamond earrings for my mother for Christmas. No money exchanged hands.
You know, I think that you guys are actually kind of highlighting on one of the things that sets our nations apart in where we're at and the opportunities that are there right now. When things collapse and go and crash, as they indubitably will, in Canada, it's going to be like a Hamlet collapses in an earthquake. In the US, it's going to be like New York City collapses in an earthquake. We can build mud huts in Canada and rebuild our Hamlet a lot quicker than they can rebuild New York. So I think that there's there's this ability in Canada, as Paul says, because we are a far smaller, things happen. A smaller pasture, the fire burns it out quicker, right? Kind of thinking where Canada is maybe in a unique position to do something like that, being that we are literally we're a de facto nation. We're a bunch of land plots together without law. And America is actually still governed and functions within a system of law.
You guys have a constitution.
Well, I will say this too: don't let the size of New York City and California fool you, because there's a lot of places in America that they don't dig on the big city.
No, but I mean, our economy is a hang glider, and your guys is a 747 jumbo jet.
My point being is that there's going to be a lot of people who are able to barter because they aren't city folk, as we like to call it. There are people who live off the land. There are people that know your neighbor. They know your neighbor.
We're pooched there.
It just occurred to me. I live on an island in Lake Huron, and I work at a meat department, and I know most of the meat suppliers around Lake Huron, and I know most of the natural food growers, and I'm not going to starve. And if you guys don't want to starve, you should buy product from me.
But you know what? I agree with Brock. This alternate societies and create your own communities and let's get a new constitution. It's bullshit. And I say it's bullshit to even waste your time doing that, because at the end of the day, the global predators own everything. And at some point in time, your little community that you want to build is going to need batteries, or going to need solar panels, or going to need oil or gas in order to survive. And where are you going to get it? If you don't have a manufacturing plant that makes those things in your little community, that means you have to step outside of your little community and walk into the other side of the street where the global predators own everything and somehow try and get it. Now, I agree about the barter system, because I've been big on buy stuff that you can barter with, because that will buy you time. But unless we start taking down the infrastructure that they have put up everywhere, the surveillance cameras, the CBDCs, unless we can somehow stop all of that, we're in big trouble, because those global predators, once they've got all their infrastructure in place and up and running, do you think they're going to let you live in your little community outside of the town buying from the local farmer? Hell no, they're sending in their AI mosquito drones and taking you out because you are useless to them.
I'm open, guys. I told you I spent some time in China in the 90s and the early 2000s. I spent a lot of time in the old Soviet Union as far back as the 1970s and the 1980s. And at that time, I talked with leaders in both societies who assured me that nobody could get around the system. And they had small plots of land in the old Soviet Union that did 50% of the agriculture. Nobody knew how. And in China, they had the very same thing happen. This stuff grows up around. Alternative communities do. And the central government withers. And near the end, it's really only good for governing the lawn in front of the big public buildings.
This isn't the first time they've done this. And this isn't the first time we've taken it back. We've done this many times over. Yeah. Revolutions occur with mere 8, sometimes even as low as 7% of a majority in the sense that the weight of that unity outdoes all of the division, all of the misinformation. It outperforms in every way as far as a stance of integrity, where communities build from the ground up and they self-govern, where just like as in the American Revolution, when the government became small because now you were a part of a community and that community self-governed and you had a representative at that community level. That's how it started. We're doing the same thing again. And yes, I know it's going to be hard. I am very well aware. And I don't want to make this seem like I am not trying to paint this with rose-colored glasses at all. But I know that we can do this, because for crying out loud, what are we so capable of doing? We've proven this as Canadians. When there's a disaster that strikes, we band together. We've got that strength to make it through anything. Look at, we evacuated Fort McMurray in those fires. We moved 80-some thousand people without losing one single life in a fire that devastated an entire city. We can do this. We've got everything we need to be able to make it happen. Will there be difficulties? Absolutely. I'm never going to argue that. But our biggest mess ups, our biggest mistakes, and our biggest downfalls could not possibly outdo the purposeful, deliberate destruction that our enemy has done to us.
I do agree, Paul. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I just actually wanted to come on here for like 5 minutes and see your face. So I just want to just quickly add this, and then I got to jump off because I got to do my taxes. You're
a believer.
I haven't figured out how to get out of it yet, but someone's got to show me that. I'll barter that with somebody. But one thing I'll say that in terms of all this darkness that we're seeing right now, and I just interviewed somebody from out in at the fires, and it's just insane. The backburning and 50-kilometer-hour winds just letting people's houses go down in flames. You know, you see the sickness, the terror of what's actually happening in the world. But one thing that I was buoyed by is I went and saw Sound of Freedom. And after that movie was over, what I realized was that, you know, all this child trafficking, mostly the kids are being taken in, I hate using the term third world countries because they're oppressed, exploited countries, but that's where they're mostly happening. Now, because of this movie, their problems have come onto the global stage. It's like over COVID over the last 3 years, you had the countries and the continents that were experimented on with the vaccines. It was regional endemic problems. You know, we have pockets of people being injured, but those problems now became part of the global stage. And what I'm seeing now is we are now living through, for the first time in humanity, a global consciousness. Your problem over in your country is not just your problem. It's all of our problems. And we are seeing people from around the world jumping on Zooms together, having conferences, flying across the different continents to work out solutions together. I mean, this is an exciting time to be alive, if ever there was one, right?
Yeah.
So for me, you know, the biggest thing for any sort of change is awareness. If you don't have awareness, you're not going to change something because you don't realize there's a problem. But this is what we're seeing: a global awareness, a global consciousness. And however the chips may fall, eventually with that awareness, people will start to take over and find solutions. We don't have to provide the solutions. Everybody will jump in and start to realize, you're trying to take away my natural health products? No, fuck that. You can't do that. People will jump in. We want the Karens of the world to get pissed off. You're taking away my natural health cosmetics. You know, we want everybody to get involved in this. And I think as media, our job is to help people become aware of what's happening, awaken them to the problems, and let them also figure out and jump into the foray and help us to get there, right? I don't think we need to have all the solutions, but it is an incredible time to be alive.
Agreed.
What a great way to cap off exactly what we're doing, exactly why we've all gathered here. The differing input into all of this, I think, has been absolutely amazing. Insanity is unsustainable, and Chuck, I agree. We are literally watching the death throes of a monster and a beast. And Paul, I also agree in that this is ultimately going to come apart. And as I've said for a long time, that was inevitable. But how we choose to rebuild it is where we will define our future history. Will we rebuild it because they handed us a carrot and asked us to build it their way? Or will we rebuild it as we see fit? And I think that when people are forced to make that decision publicly is where we will see the vast majority of the 70% that's missing in hiding in anonymity in the system. That's where we'll see the shining lights of humanity and brightness and return to humanity, come back to us all.
Well, I think a big point there too is you're seeing all this infighting happening. The awareness has to be globally what's happening, but the awareness also has to be in the know thyself, because I think there's a lot of people who don't recognize that, hey, look, there's a doctor who is injecting people with this bioweapon. They came out, they apologized, they said they want to do right now, and there's people attacking them saying you deserve to die.
Yeah.
They don't realize the division that they have and the hatred they have in themselves. I mean, everything that we are looking for is symbolic and embodies love. It embodies cooperation and unity, like there was at the convoy, right?
Yeah.
100%.
There was no division there. Everyone was just there for the same purpose. So people got to really check themselves and realize, like, where am I coming from when I am saying something? Because am I actually adding to this and pushing the bar forward so that we're going to live in a better world? Or am I being like the very people that I say I despise and that I want to, I want to overthrow? Because what happens is you take out the top, and then if people don't change, it's just going to be a flip flop, and it's a continuing cycle of humanity, right?
100%. 2-minute drill. Richard, tell people where to find you. Everybody gets tell the world where to catch up with the rest of you. Thank you for an amazing amount of value that you all brought today.
Okay, you can find me just about every day on Facebook, the Not TV page, and on the Mongo Mind Twitch page. I try and do a new show every day, every morning, if I can. And tomorrow I'm not going to do one. I'm going to be too tired after tonight here. But I will do one on Sunday. And then Sunday night, you'll also see Brad Kerrigan with his Talk for Freedom. Tuesday night, I'm hoping to have Chad, my colleague, back on again. Hopefully he'll be able to get away from the forest fires, from fighting the forest fires on Tuesday night. And then next Friday, I'll be back here again.
Awesome.
So,
Chuck,
there we go.
Marianne.
Marianne and I are on freedomforumcanada.com, the website, and we are also on LGM News every Monday night. At least I am with Wayne. Marianne?
Oh, just saying, same thing. We're on Freedom Forum News. But one of the things I will say is, we do have a barter system going on the island. Pretty nice with the Amish.
Awesome.
Really
Awesome.
nice.
I think there's a lot more of that going on than anybody realizes.
Oh, tons. It's good. Okay.
Paul.
Yeah, you can find me. What's that?
Where do people find you?
Oh, yeah. manknownasppaul.com, and of course on lgm.news/manknownasppaul.com or manknownasppaul.
Awesome. Brock, I'm not going to steal your thunder. You were invited.
You can find us on Rumble under Wendy Bell Radio. We have our own app, Wendy Bell Radio Network app, every day, 9 to noon. And what Glenn was saying, I watch our numbers go up every day. We started at 3,000 a show. We're now in the 9 to 10,000 range every day, Monday through Friday. So I think more people are waking up, and they're getting that knowledge of saying, wow, we're being duped and we need to change our thinking. So maybe that for a positive thing is just watching numbers grow of more people saying it's time to wake up, and they're actually waking up, and Sound of Freedom was a huge reason for that. But every day, 9 to noon, Monday through Friday.
And of course, on the LGM.news network, too.
Yes. There too.
Jody and Chris.
Well, you can find us Mondays and Thursdays. Our best place is Rumble. Our website is under construction, so you can get us there at TFM Cast for now. But TFM Report on Rumble, Mondays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern is the best place to find us.
You can find us also on Looking Glass Media,
Yep.
Odyssey, Twitch, Facebook, Chris Bleck, Twitter.
Yeah, if you want to see a Twitter fight now and again, over to Twitter.
And Cloud Hub. So,
Awesome.
Brighteon now.
And Brighteon now. We are on Brighteon, and every once in a while, Spotify.
Chris, what's your Twitter handle?
Chris Bleck, CRISVLECK.
Okay.
My own name is a
spell that
minefield,
again.
but
Spell that again.
CRISVLECK.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sometimes I'm spicy.
I just want to hear your Twitter fights.
Oh, I'm always spicy, so.
So Bright Light News you can find at brightlightnews.com, and then I'm still on Facebook and Instagram, but Twitter as well, and Telegram, and all there. The handle is BL as in Bright Light, BL News Media. And yeah, that's it. I just kind of post whenever I find time to get out my interviews and content. So hopefully I'll be joining LGM as well. Just I feel left out here. Everyone's there, so it seems like it's where all the cool kids are. So I need to get on there.
Yeah, you do. 100%.
Yeah.
Just for everybody's information here, we are streaming out to 14 different platforms this evening. So you will find us in a lot of places after this evening. The feedback has been absolutely phenomenal. So thanks everybody for taking the time to hang out with us tonight. And we'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.